Happy Monday, everyone.
Hello. Happy Monday from Zurich.
Ooh, so fancy. So much fancier than Happy Monday from Richmond, Virginia.
I mean, it depends on where you are.
That's true. So happy Monday from wherever you are. Let us know where you are if you're somewhere fancy or fancy at heart. So
Yes, I love fancy at heart.
yeah.
This is great. Yes, I'm coming to you. Improv on and off the stage has flown to Zurich, and we are doing amazing things over here, workshops and shows, and so many great things. Talking about the theme of the month, which is
Recovery.
recovery. I was gonna legit say ricotta cheese, but it's not ricotta cheese. It's recovery.
2023, just so everyone knows, all our themes are going to be cheese-based.
Oh,
January is brie. We're going to go alphabetical. I don't think there's an A cheese. We're going to go brie, camembert.
there has to be an A cheese. Like American cheese.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yes, we are here talking about recovery specifically today. Emily, this is what I want to talk about.
Good.
I want to talk about the way that improv helps us to make quick recoveries. So we've been talking about like long recovery, the idea of like the process of recovery. If you through something like loss or something like I don't know, change, recovery, from a move or something like that, something that has happened and now we're taking a lot of time. But what I'm interested in today is the idea of recovery that takes very little time, like realizing that you made a mistake and you have to apologize for it, or realizing that, like you went the wrong way on the street and you have to like legit recover from that, or being embarrassed, like, yes, the mistake, being embarrassed, apologizing, but saying the wrong thing and hurting someone's feelings and not necessarily apologizing, but like correcting yourself in the moment. And I want to talk a little bit about like what improv teaches us as far as the how to do that, and more on how we do it in life and how we do it on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that is, when people say to us that thing that is like, I don't know, how you are able to think so fast. I could never think so fast. But I think that's one of those things that like we're improvisers are known for is the quickness. I don't think people necessarily see it as a quick recovery. I think they see it as cleverness.
Yes.
Yeah. But what the basic of what we learn is that, whatever you say is right, which makes our quick recovery easy, right? But that doesn't necessarily translate to the real world because not everything I say in the real world is right.
That's correct.
Or appropriate or helpful.
Right. Well, and so this is fun because yes, we have this idea on stage that everything we say is right, that the thing that we say is going to be accepted. But under that is we also have the idea that saying something, we have lots of ideas, but saying something is better than saying nothing.
Yeah. Or doing something,
There it
like
is.
some sort of motion and action is better than inaction.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's true too about, especially in response to our own behavior, right? I think doing absolutely nothing when we really should do something is also not helpful. Like, let's say, like I say something insulting, right? If I was just like, your overalls are dumb, blah, blah, and then like just kind of went on. My wife, your overalls are beautiful. I am so jealous. I wish I could pull off overalls. So if I just kind of like went on my way and did nothing, said nothing, pretended like it didn't happen, that would
Mhm.
damage our relationship, right? And
Mhm.
even if like me saying like, Shannon, I'm so sorry. I just had a bad day and honestly, I'm just jealous that I can't look as good in overalls as you look as you look. Um even though that's not the maybe not the perfect or most eloquent thing to say, it's better than literally nothing.
Nothing. So uh what I am digging into, or how about what is surprising for me, is that actually here in Zurich, we being myself and John Gebertatios is here from Minneapolis, huge theater, and he is just taught a his wonderful workshop called Hard Topics. And we talk about this same thing, this idea that, especially in a room where we're talking about abortion, or we're talking about racism, or we're talking about any of these topics that can come up that are sensitive topics, difficult topics to tackle. John had a lot of questions in his workshop that were, well, what if you say something um, and you don't even know what you said that hurt somebody's feelings or that changed the mood on stage? And this is specifically on stage, but it
Mhm.
also helps in the real world. And what if you say something on stage that changes the mood negatively, but you don't know what it was, right?
Yeah.
What do you do then? And his answer was, and I'm sure both of our answers are, you say exactly that, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, I don't know really what I said, but I can tell that, and you can do this on stage. Hey, time out. I don't know what I said, but I can tell the mood has changed in here, and it seems like I need to apologize, and I'm sorry. And then you can just move on, and you can say those exact same words
Mhm.
off the stage to anyone.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Mhm,
especially if you don't know, okay, and you're genuinely sorry, what a good time for education for you.
mhm,
It's also
mhm.
that's a great way. It's a great way to ask for some education, right?
Yes.
Um,
Mm,
to stop and be like, I don't know. I certainly didn't mean to say anything wrong. Please tell me what I said so that I cannot do that in the future. So because
mhm.
when we make apologies, like when we make a for real apology, it should be, and also I don't want to make the same mistake again in the future.
Yes.
And not just like a blanket like uh you know, um I'm a very I was the kind of like girl that was raised to say sorry to everything.
Mm,
And
mhm.
so that I fall into that trap where I use sorry as a pacification tool and not necessarily a fixie tool. And we should
Right.
use it as a fixie tool
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
not a quiet angry man tool.
Whoa.
We can
Real
we can
life,
go into that another day.
real life. But these are the truths, right? These are the truths.
Mhm.
And I want to stick on this path of like the things that improv helps us see and improv helps us do. And so that's one of them, which is do something, make a choice, right? Improv, the practice of improv helps us to quickly observe / become aware of things, and then make a choice quickly in the moment. In this case we're talking about recovery, and the idea of making that choice in the moment. And we've said this a little bit before, that every moment is a chance to recover on stage,
Yeah.
right? The
Mhm.
other thing, or another thing, because there are very many, another thing that improv teaches us in this like idea of recovery, is to face your partner, right? Like legitimately to respond physically, like, to your partner, not only in your voice, as in using words, but also in your physicality, right?
Mhm.
When we look at our partner and we see that Emily is doing exactly what she's doing, right? This like, oh, okay. whatever it is that she's doing in the moment. I don't necessarily need to mirror her, but how does that, what Emily's posture is, how does Emily's posture affect my posture?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see she's leaning in. I see she's talking to me. I want to respond. This is going to help me understand where Emily's character is, like in the room, in the scene, what Emily might be going through, and then make a choice based on that. When we take that out, when we take that, like, okay, how is my partner responding into the real world? It's look at all our shows. I say this every show. It's the same
It's the same thing.
thing. I say it every show.
Same thing. Well, and that's true, and that's such an important life skill to be able to look at someone and take in those features. And I know that like
Yes.
for some people it can be hard, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
For people with neurodivergences or socially anxious people or people who aren't acclimated to certain customs of body language or communicative skills, right? Uh, and so I think it's important for us to start recognizing like those little changes in our partner so that even then we can start to be like, what does that mean?
Yes. Yes. And we can ask the question. So I'm snapping. So I was snapping because we went out to dinner. Get out of here. We went out to dinner and to a Eritrean restaurant this evening, and where John is from. And he was telling us about in his culture, the listening body language. He was talking about the listening
Mm.
body language.
Mhm.
And for Americans, for most Americans, for many Americans, the listening body language looks exactly like what Emily is doing, right? Like a lean in, like nodding, I'm listening, I'm hearing what you're saying, sort of like the, yes, I'm receiving this information. John was saying in his culture, people will listen like this.
Ooh.
Yeah. And we're not being rude, we're not being bored, we're not listening, but can you imagine if you were giving a talk, Emily, and you didn't know you were giving a talk in Eritrea and you didn't know that that was the culture, and every single person was in the audience like,
I don't know. I feel like I've done some improv shows like that.
but in that
But
culture,
yes,
right?
yeah, because
Right?
it's nerve wracking to look out into a sea of people that like have serious face, um, and eyes closed. And that is fascinating because I think I've certainly met people who have I think what many people would just describe as a poker face in terms of how they're feeling about
Mhm.
what you're saying. And then like afterwards, they'd be like, that was really funny.
That was awesome. You're
That was
so
amazing.
funny. And you're like, what is happening? And the thing that improv teaches us in that moment is like, because you're talking about people who are neurodivergent, people who are from different cultures, people who, for whatever reason, whatever it is that you're doing, it's going to be hard for them to take a cue from whatever, like from you. It's going to be hard for them really to take a cue. Improv teaches us that also, like, what is your instinct? How do
Mhm.
we, yes, yes, right? What is your instinct? What, I love this, like, what is the story that we're telling, right? What just
Yes.
happened? Where are we going? And if this, then what? Within yourself.
Yeah.
With if
Right.
this, then what? Within yourself. So that you can recover from, like, you look out into the audience, you're like, that can't, I just said the most hilarious thing. It's so funny what I said. What is that? Okay, this isn't, like, looking out into the audience isn't working for you right now because you're not getting the feedback that you need. So what is the story that you've been telling, and can we be brave enough to move forward?
Mhm.
Right?
And can we be flexible enough to adjust that story?
Mhm.
So this is Marissa down here saying, like, having little signs that are like, hey, I show, I care. But like, I think we can also ask, and like, just like we said before about being able to ask, like, what did I say? So this is honestly, this is a strategy I work to teach, like, some emotional understanding,
Mm,
um, with my littles, is is not necessarily saying um, like if they make some noise or do something, not necessarily saying like, um, why are you so mad at me? But sometimes I'll say like, hey, it looks to me, because you are yelling and stomping your feet, that you are upset. Would you like to talk about it? And I I had one little boy for a little while. I would say things like, "Hey, I noticed you're growling. That makes me think you might be frustrated. Are you frustrated right now?" And he was like, "No, I'm just a bear." So, like, similarly, I think we can say to people like, "Hey, I noticed that. I noticed that you're just kind of very stoic face, and that makes me wonder if you're enjoying your time here. I just want to know how you're feeling."
right. Yes. Yes.
It
It's
is
like,
hard and intimidating. Yeah,
yeah,
Marissa.
it is. This is correct, but also like this is still correct, right?
Mhm,
And this like I wish everybody had a little sign like this is how I care, this is how I show I'm listening. And the thing is that obviously these two things go hand in hand
mhm.
because people do have a sign, right? People
Right.
do
They're
have
just
a sign.
different.
They're just all
They're different.
different. And so that's where this whole thing comes in. Like asking is hard and intimidating, but if we don't ask, then we don't know at
Yeah.
all. And then you can to bring us sort of back on this recovery thing, the the vulnerable part, that's why it's hard. The vulnerable part is the asking. But the more you ask, the easier it becomes. And then also, it becomes easier to recover. It becomes so much easier to make choices that you don't have to recover from.
Yeah.
One, right?
Mhm.
And it also becomes easier to, like, oh, right. I asked Emily about that growling. Every time she growls, I think she's angry, but she's only a bear. And man, I keep getting my feelings hurt, but I need to stop that. She's just a bear. She's just a
She's
bear.
just being a bear. That's how she has responds to things, is by being a bear. I mean, and think about, like, I think a lot of us, when we're in relationships, start to deal with this as we learn, like, our partners, like, um argument styles or disagreement styles, right? My spouse is very quiet and thoughtful, right? And so it took me a little while to finally be like, you're being very quiet after this thing that I said, and it makes me think that you hate me and you're going to divorce me right now. And he's like, what? No, I'm just thinking. I just need some time. You're cool. It's fine. And so
Yeah.
and it takes, but now, years down the road, when we were having like, uh I guess, an intense discussion, not necessarily like an argument, but something like that deep, and he's very quiet now, like, I'm a lot quicker to be like, oh, he's just gotta take his time. He doesn't
Yeah.
talk through his thoughts, like, he doesn't have like an outside monologue to match his inside monologue like I do.
Right. Right. Okay. So I want to shift a little, just a tiny bit, like just teeny tiny. I believe that there is so much guilt that comes with recovering quickly. And the guilt hinders us
Yeah.
from making a quick recovery, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And I think about one of the examples I was using earlier was a small example, but like getting lost, taking a wrong turn, especially if somebody's in the car with you. You know what I mean? Like that can be really embarrassing. But a thing that helps us in improv, as far as that goes, is that we're practicing so much, right? Being embarrassed, doing goofy things, like we're just in that space where the guilt, we're turning it into a story. In other words, there's no other words actually. We are in a story. We realize that we are in a story. And because we are in a story and we're telling this story together with a partner, the thing that we did that was embarrassing, our partner is going to take that and and help direct it into where it's supposed to go. Or we can help direct it into where it's supposed to go as far as the story is concerned. And if we think about our lives in the same fashion and pieces of our lives in the same fashion,
Mhm.
like, yes, I made this literal wrong turn, but what part of the story is this part, right? Like we can release that guilt pretty quickly, and that embarrassment pretty quickly if we can just be like, no, no, no. It's literally, this is the trek we're on now.
Yeah, this is the journey. And like it's
This is
not
the journey. Yeah.
and speaking of like the difference between like doing nothing and figuring out what you're doing. If you take a wrong turn and you're like, no, I didn't, you just keep going down like the street. And so I think you're right. You're right that it's not the end of your story. Like you and your passenger are both going to be like, oh, that was silly. Because
Mhm.
again, it's not the end of your journey, so it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
That you that you
Yeah.
took a wrong turn. You're fine. Just turn around.
Emily, that sentence, it's not the end of your journey, is so brilliant. What a brilliant sentence. It is, right? Because even when we make mistakes, th in that moment, mistakes towards another person, in that moment, it's not the end of both of your journeys, your friendship, your relationship, whatever that relationship may look like.
Right.
That
You don't just
moment
like
is
cease to exist. You say something.
right.
I diss your overalls, and then we
And then it's
poof
just
out of existence.
I wanted
Yeah, and then you're gone. But like I still have to be here, so I got to do something.
right, right. But yeah, it's not the end of your journey. And if you can keep that in mind, like this isn't the end of our journey. What continues our journey is to recover. Like whoever made that, like I, Emily, like I didn't like your overalls. Okay, Shannon's not going to disappear. How do we recover from that? It's not the end of this journey. It's not the end of our story. So I have time, right? I have time to
Mhm.
recover. On stage, that time could be anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes, right? Or 30 seconds to
At
an
least
hour.
you make a mistake at the beginning of your long form,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Well, can't black out
You've got
now."
some time. But yeah, I love that. It's not the end of your journey. And keeping that phrase in the back of your mind can help you move through the next step, the next
Yeah,
phase of something. Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
yeah, absolutely. Because you gotta you gotta do something.
You've got to do
And
something.
and I think and we talked about how things are always in the improv world, whatever you say is right. But I think in the real world, your comfort for what you say also comes from my favorite thing to say in this show is the what's important to you, right? Um, in order to continue on that journey towards
Right.
what's important to you, right?
Right.
Um, so no matter, or maybe not no matter what I say, but like very likely, regardless of what I say, I am making an effort to move forward towards the thing that's important to me. Um,
Mhm.
Apologizing about your overalls moved me closer to being a good friend
Right.
and practicing self awareness and being humble.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, this man, when so today, we are talking about quick quick recovery. And to reiterate what you're always saying, what you just said, which was, what is important to you? The question, what is important to you? Yes, we're talking about quick recoveries today, but as far as the long recovery process, it's the same. It's the same thing. Like what is important to you, and keeping that goal is going to help you to make the choices towards and through recovery every day, all in all the moments. It's going to help you. You may not
Right.
do it each and every time, but you'll do it more often if you know what's important to you.
And I think pulling back to your driving metaphor, just to like
Mm,
leave us and tie some of those things together, right? If you think about, when you're in your car or your destination, like where you're going, like going to Red Robin or whatever. They have Red Robins in Texas. Is that a thing?
yep.
Okay, good.
Red Robin. Got it.
Campfire sauce. Okay, so, but if you take a wrong turn or you make a mistake, because we're human beings and we're infallible, or we are fallible, whatever the word is that we
We
screw up
make
all the
mistakes.
time. If you make your wrong turn and you're no longer heading to Red Robin, now you're heading towards Jack in the Box, right? You can either be like, you can either recognize like, oh no, what was important to me was that campfire sauce and those big old steak fries. So I need to kind of reroute myself.
Mm,
Otherwise, you're kind of looking at something that you don't actually want. Um, so like if you don't do anything, if I don't say anything about your overalls, I'm moving away from friendship. I'm moving away from my friendship, Red Robin. I'm moving towards being lonely Jack in the Box. Sorry, Jack in the Box. You're probably delicious.
I yes, I you're talking about consequences.
Mhm.
Consequences. Oh, we only have 2 minutes, my girl.
Is
But
this a
like,
next week conversation? Well, let's
yeah.
continue. Let's continue the how do we re-find our path,
Yeah,
our,
we
our
can
route? How do
how do we
we,
refind?
yeah,
Mhm.
how do we get Google to be like rerouting and help you out in your life? We'll do it
Yes,
next week.
we'll continue that time. But I do want to, like, in the seconds, I do want to say that the moving away part is so important to me. Just to keep
Mhm.
that in my mind and everybody's mind, that when we do the thing, when we do recover or make the choice to say I'm sorry or whatnot, we are moving towards what we want. And moving away from what we want, when it's easier to continue to move towards. Once you start moving away, it gets harder and harder and harder and you get more lost. On the driving metaphor, you get
Yeah,
loster and loster and
yeah,
loster.
uh-huh, yeah. You get loster and loster. Um,
Yeah.
I like that Marissa's comment, by the way, says some beautiful things about how there's like
Actually.
some joy and surprise
Mhm.
in us, being able to recover. I I love this thought too, that not only are we accepting that we're going to make wrong turns every now and then,
Mhm.
but also I like the joy that you're infusing in the, well, now what do we learn and how can we be surprised by these wrong turns?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We're doing good work, my friends.
We're
You know what I
doing
mean?
great. So it is, we're reaching our time.
We're doing it.
So as always, y'all can find us on our YouTube and our Facebook. If you're watching us, you're on one of those platforms, probably.
Right.
We also have Patreon, patreon.com/.
Hello.
And you can be a cool patron, like for as little as $3 a month, guys. Like, you know how boomers are like, just that's a coffee. Millennials, stop drinking a coffee. Whatever. We know what inflation is, but like $3 a month isn't that much. And you can be cool, like Gail Papermeister and Marissa Kessler are some of our
Hell
very
yeah.
cool patrons.
Yes.
And that's all we got going on this week. You're in Zurich. If you happen to be in the EU, go see Shannon.
Come on, come see me. I want to see you. We're at Theater Ida, and it is amazing. I've got workshops coming up on being quiet, using the stillness. How do we hearing the unsaid? That is what that workshop is called. And if I don't see you in Zurich, I'll either see you on, or I'll see you on and
Off the stage. Goodbye.
bye.